to go more in depth with it. So as you have said in your presentation, upstream, you have all the data that we have to control, to master in order to design the measures and the ways to do. So I think that the University of Cape Coast and the Center of Excellence has also a lot of things to say. So I would like to give the floor to Mr. Denis, I think, from the University of Cape Coast to explain what are the research and case studies on coastal and sediment management from Ghana. Dennis?
Please,
you have the floor.
Okay. Is the slide okay? Initially, I was told there was some blank. This is okay. All right.
Yes, that's fine now. That's fine.
Okay. Okay, I think somebody has taken control over my slide. All right. So good morning from here. My name is Donatus Angnuureng from the Center for Coastal Management at the University of Cape Coast in Ghana. I'm very excited to present to you research and case studies on coastal and sediment management in Ghana. I hope that by the end of this presentation, we will find areas to match with what has already been presented so that we can discuss properly and get solutions for reducing sediment deficit and coastal erosion in general along the coastline of West Africa. Next slide. Okay, so for the presentation, I will talk on beach changes in Ghana for some case studies, some sites. We'll look at the coastal erosion causes in Ghana potentially and their impacts, the longshore transport along the coastline of Ghana, beach sediment measurement and equipment needs, and bibliometric analysis of research works that have been done in Ghana by researchers. I'll conclude with some take-home messages. Next slide. Okay, so the coastline of Ghana has been divided into three sections based on geography and geomorphology. As eastern, western, and central. The eastern section has always been regarded as the most eroded based on results from researchers. And it's reported that it experiences erosion up to a tune of 17 meters per year, as the lady from MESTI presented. So I'll present to you 5 or 4 sites of the eastern section of the coast, which are the Keta. The Keta is more towards Togo. We have the Jita, Adan, and then Sakumono is more in the Accra area. Now, these beaches are all facing erosion in different magnitudes. Apart from the Jita coastline that is here, the first one on the left. I wish I would have to control my slides. The first one on the left is not protected. The rest of the beaches are protected and they are still experiencing erosion. As you can see in Sakumono, between 2005 and 2021, erosion measured, or what we estimated, has been observed to be around 43 meters, and that is quite enormous. Currently, all these places have some sort of protection, but as I said earlier, the erosion is still persisting. Next slide. Okay, so the central coastline is characterized by diverse beaches, unlike that of the eastern. The eastern is predominantly sandy, and we can agree that the transport of sediment or the dynamics of sediment at that site will be different from the central, which is made up of rocky, sand, and even the nature of the beaches. Yeah, we have mixed bay beaches, we have open beaches, and as you can see, these are 6 selected sites for the central coast. And these sites are all very important sites, highly inhabited by people and with a large number of businesses or tourism sectors. For example, the Elmina is where we have the Elmina Castle, and is a very highly patronized tourist center. These sites are eroding. Between 2005 and 2021, we have seen erosion as high as 5 meters at some of these sites. And the most eroding site in the central coast, as I present, is the Apam beach. This beach has erosion as high as 4 meters, and it means that we are losing sediment here. But as you can see, this is a bay beach. It's a bay beach, and the sediment is being lost. So there are many questions that we can pose when we come to a discussion session as to where the sediment is coming from and where it is going, and so that we can find solutions to it. Next slide. Next slide. I don't know. Okay. Between 2005 and 2021, the Western coast showed the least in terms of sediment losses. Overall, erosion here is less than 3 meters. From Angnuureng Beach to the end of Ghana, that is towards ACECoR, erosion here is quite minimal. At areas where we have sea defenses, for example, Discof and ACECoR, as you can see, to manage the erosion, the rates are reasonably low. But at Angnuureng Beach and Abusia, where we do not have protection, the rates seems high. And for example, at Angnuureng, this is a beach that is repeatedly dominated by erosion and flooding. And it is because of its settings. It has a very gentle pattern, and it's also a sandy beach as compared to this ACECoR and Discof that have some form of rocky characteristics. Next slide. All right. Coastal erosion is a natural phenomenon, as we know, but this natural phenomenon has been exacerbated by human activities and natural activities. If you come to Ghana, along the coastline, you will find several human interventions. As already presented by the various talks, you know, we have dam construction, we have construction of ports and harbors, and we have sand mining, and these are human interventions for the benefit of human beings, but they also have what? Consequences for the coastline. As we already been said, sand mining will definitely result in loss of sediment. One thing that is also a very key factor along the coastline is the sediment characteristics. It is being reported by Ayibetola and Tufuo Dako, 1979, that 50% of our suspended sediment are of sizes less than 63 microns. What that means is that when the sediment is that fine, it can easily be transported offshore or far away from the coastline or from the particular point where it was generated. In that case, there will always be less sediment. Next slide. All right. One of the human factors has already been stressed, which is the damming. The dams are actually necessary for the human populace, but it has been acknowledged by research works that they also block and prevent quantities of sediment from arriving along the coast. I just present to you here the total yield of sediment for the Volta Dam. This is a very highly popular dam. And this is a very large dam. It gives a lot of importance to the hydroelectric power of Ghana. And this dam was built on the Volta River. The Volta River is also a very large river. It spreads to Burkina Faso, to other countries, and it ends in the coastline of Ghana. This river used to supply sediment as large as 72 million metric cube per year. But after the construction of the dam on top of the river, this has significantly reduced to 8 million. And you can imagine how it is affecting the beaches along the Volta Delta and even to the neighboring countries. So the dams are good, but they also have significant impact on the sediment that we generate along our various beaches. Besides, the dams, some of the dams are likely to even induce flooding that could also lead to some loss of sediment or even properties. Next slide. Apart from the human influences, research along our coastline or by researchers has shown that natural factors like waves, storm surge, and sea level rise are playing key role. It is known that wave conditions along the Ghanaian coastline are moderate in consistency with what is experienced in the entire Western Africa. Wave conditions are mostly around or averagely 1.4 meters in terms of significant wave height. And though they hardly exceed 3 meters, this is not very low wave conditions. Along the entire coastline of Ghana, particularly in the eastern section, wave conditions there could be high compared to that of the western. And these waves, in combination with the open nature of the eastern coast, could be leading to high amount of sediment transport. Of late, we are quite aware of the repeated flooding that occurs at some selected beaches or some beaches in Ghana. For example, last year we talked a lot about flooding at K2 South and Anglo Beach. This year, the same thing is happening. This is always caused by what we call or what is generally known as the storm surges. You know, it is widely known that a 1 hectopascal decrease in pressure or atmospheric pressure is likely to result in what? An increase in sea level rise. And once this happens with the nature of the beach, if your beach is very gentle, that we have at Anglo Beach and that of the K2 South, then there's high chance of what? flooding and significant erosion. Next slide, please. Okay, so what do? We are aware that our beaches are eroding. We are aware that there are several factors that could lead to the erosion or sediment deficit, loss of sediment. But what are we able to do? One thing that is important for us is to think of these sediment losses or erosion in the context of coastal compartments. We need to be able to map out on the entire coastline the sources, sinks, and pathways of sediment. If we are unable to do this, then we will not be able to balance, or will not be able to know where we can protect and where we can live. And this is something that has not been done. We have a lot of interventions that are being done along the coast, but there has not been any holistic mapping of the entire coastal area to understand the different compartments in terms of these characteristics I just mentioned. Next slide, please. Yes, we are doing a lot. A lot of research has been going on. We are able to identify, we'll be able to identify the overall drift. And as you will see in the figure to the right, the global or the net drift of sediment along the coastline of Ghana comes from the west to the east. Looking at the three different sections, as I did indicate, the central to the eastern section are purely to the east. But at the western section, we have some of the sediment moving back towards the west. But on the whole, alongshore sediment drift is from the east from the west to the east. I must say that we have done some research, or research on the internet has shown that it's not only longshore drift that is occurring along the coast, and this is logical for all coastal countries. In fact, the presence of the waves and other characteristics such as undertow current and rip channels result in transport of sediment offshore in the cross-shore direction. What we, however, know is that the longshore drift is dominant. We are actually unable to tell what magnitude or what is the quantity of sediment that are transported offshore, because we haven't been able to map out what the entire coastline or the compartments along the coastline. And I think this is just to bring out a lot of points for the discussion that we'll be having. Next slide, please. Yes, as I did indicate, and as was presented by other presenters, a lot has been done in the country by researchers. For all the case studies that I have mentioned, we have one way or the other used different approach to look at the beach changes. We have looked at erosion, we've looked at sediment availability. However, I want to go through with you the pros and cons of some of these approaches. For us to do a large-scale mapping, everybody, we are aware that the satellite has a wider coverage. But for us in Ghana, the satellite data that are available for us to access are of low quality. Therefore, we are only able to use them maybe for just shoreline changes. But if you want to go into a fine scale to look at sediment volumes and finer cells, it is quite uneasy. So elsewhere, we have very high resolution satellite data that we can use to be able to come out with this. So this is I think maybe through these discussions and collaborations, we should be able to have access to some of this data that we can use to do a holistic mapping of the coastline. Next slide. In Ghana, we have also been using the video cameras. We have already installed previous slide, please. We have already installed three video cameras on 3 different beaches. And this approach, I must say, is a very useful approach. It gives us very high quality data. And as you can see, we have very high resolution images. It gives us very high frequency on a 2Hz scale. And the only disadvantage is that it's unable to give us a live scale as satellite will give us. But it can give you important information on your shoreline in terms of erosion, on the waves, and then also on beach profile and sediment movement. And I presented this because I'm thinking that if we can develop, this is not an expensive methodology, equipment, if we can improve or develop this method, it can help a lot with sediment, transport, and beach management. And as was presented by the earlier presenter, we can use it for various approaches. One issue is where to fix it. In our part of the world, or in Ghana, there are various areas that we may not have houses close by the beach, and how to set up this system, it will be very difficult because you need power, and to keep it permanently, you need power to do that. Next slide, please. Another approach that we use to do our coastal research is through the UAV. With the emergence of the UAV, now we are able to conduct surveys at different places, remote areas. And we're able to do mapping of beach profiles, looking at sediment volume changes, looking at the shoreline changes. And I must say that with this approach, we have been able to map about 20 beaches, 20 different communities along the coast over the recent years. So this is very useful. However, there are other approaches, because some of these approaches that we are using require that you validate them with some in-situ observation or field observations. And when it comes to that, it becomes a challenge because you may not have the necessary equipment or experience to do this. Next slide. All right. For proper coastal sediment management, we need bathymetry data. And the last presenter stressed that. I've also been stressing that. It's very difficult data that we always don't have. And for you to be able to reconstruct the beach profile from the top, from the land to the nearshore depth, you need the nearshore bathymetry. And this is a very complex data because it's difficult to collect. We have been collecting data on it as and when we can, but it's really, really challenging. And I think if we can discuss ways to have this data, I saw that in the previous presentation, you talked about SAR. We don't have that approach. And I think it would be good for us to discuss that in detail and also see how this can be implemented within the region. Next slide, please. So given that the sediment decline, or from the research that has been done and reported, we are aware, yes, we have most of our beaches now are eroding. That means what? There is sediment loss. And it means we need to be able to tell the rate at which sediments are being transported, the quantities of sediment that we are experiencing or we are having at our coast. But this is something we are now trying to do. So you see, these are some of our students who have devised their own strategies using existing theories to be able to measure sediment quantities in the near shore. But as you can see, this is very risky, but we have to do it so that we can be able to support with policy making what is happening along our coastline. Next slide. Next slide. All right. As I was saying, we have been trying to collect the data. We have been using the available data that we have, and we have some information. We have some information on several beaches, even on ecology and different various parameters. But some of the data we are taking will still require for us to validate them, or for us to provide accurate field observations so that we can be confident enough to present it for policy making. In Ghana, we have various scientists who would want to do research, but they actually are in laboratories that are not well equipped. So, so we really need to find out ways in which to obtain data accurately for policy making. Next slide, please. Okay, so before I end, I would want to re-emphasize some this work that we did sometime. You know, maybe all these things, challenges that I have mentioned, lack of equipment, data collection problems, and challenges in data collection have affected the research output in our on coastal issues in West Africa, and maybe in Ghana as a country. If you look at the figures on this slide, the top one is global Web of Science papers in that have been published, and the down one is that of West Africa. What is happening here is that Africa woke up 15 years late, or West Africa woke up 15 years late to the growth of what? Publications. And 10 years late to the growth of publications. And this gap could be because of the challenges we are facing. So I really would conclude by saying that we need more research. Next and last slide. Okay, I will conclude by saying that, you know, there are various approaches mentioned today throughout the presentations to consider for coastal management. What I will stress is that we have to emphasize the human management aspect. We have to emphasize what we, the humans, are doing in terms of managing the coastline. Our approaches, our interventions, they are good, but we should consider what they will do to the adjacent beaches. Secondly, data collection is very critical. Data collection is very critical for coastal and sediment management. We could invest in low-cost monitoring approaches like the cameras and then the drones. And this can give us high frequency, high resolution, and large-scale data set. Lastly, we need to really map up, for example, in Ghana, we need to map out the entire coastline, the different compartments, so that we can confidently say that this is what is happening at this section of the coastline, and this is the action we have to take. Other than that, when we can take actions and we'll soon be experiencing the same problems. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I would like to catch back the time. I know it's not easy because we have a lot of things to say. There's a lot of experience to share, and we are passionate about it. We try to take a lot of time for that.